Hi everyone, welcome back. Carrying on with yet more homeostasis today. We're going to be looking at plant hormones, so let's dive straight in. We're going to look at why plants grow towards the light, gravitropism, phototropism, hydrotropism, and how something called auxin is involved with all of those. So as always, grab some paper, grab some pens, and follow along with me. Okay, before we start looking at things like gravitropism and hydrotropisms, we need to sort of go back and think about why plants do photosynthesis in the first place. So photosynthesis is where plants take water and carbon dioxide and they turn that into glucose and oxygen. Now, when you were young, I'm sure you looked at plants turning towards a window and wondered, why does it do that? Or maybe that was just me. But because plants need to carry out photosynthesis, in order to get glucose and oxygen that they can use in respiration, the more photosynthesis that they can do, the better. So often plants will bend towards the light when they're growing. So you could try this at home, get a plant and put it by a window for about a week. You should notice that its leaves and stems start to bend towards the window. And then after that week's up, turn your plant around and it will sort of correct itself. So if you have a plant that's growing towards the window and you turn it around, give it a few days and it will sort of bend itself to grow towards the window again. Plants also need water, and to do this they need to absorb it via osmosis through their roots. So plants need to know where to send their roots in order to tap into those water reservoirs underground, especially if they're large things like trees. And plants also need to work out when they're a seedling, so a baby plant, which way's up and which way's down, so the roots don't end up, sticking out the ground and them trying to grow their stems and leaves, etc., into the soil. So that's to do with something called gravitropism. So what we're going to do next is one by one sort of break up these tropisms, as they're called, talk about what each one means and what they do in terms of plants. Okay, let's start with some key terms then. So we've got three here that we're going to cover. The first one is phototropism. If you break that word up, you have two parts. You have the prefix photo, which think of photograph, photons. So photo means light. Tropism comes from a Greek word that means to turn. So if we put those together, turn and light, it's where plant shoots or stems grow towards the light, or they turn towards the light, as we discussed earlier. Our second key term is gravitropism. You might also see this referred to as geotropism in old textbooks. They are the same thing though. So this time we've got the tropism suffix, so that means to turn, but now we've got a prefix that is gravi, so think of gravity, so that's where plants' roots grows towards gravity. And lastly, we have one called hydrotropism. Hydro, thinking of water, like hydrate, and then tropism, of course, is to turn, so this is where roots grow towards water. Now, depending on the plant that you have, the different parts of it will have either what we call positive or negative tropisms. So if something has a positive tropism, that means it likes it, it wants to grow towards it. And if it has a negative tropism, that means that it doesn't like it, it does not want to grow towards it, or it's indifferent. So shoots, so we're talking about the newest parts, the newest bits of growth right at the very tippy top of the shoots. This has positive phototropism and negative gravitropism. Roots, on the other hand, they display negative phototropism, positive gravitropism, and positive hydrotropism. Hydrotropism is a strange one though, because it can actually override gravitropism, meaning that if there is a sort of a little pocket of water, or there is water growing above where the roots currently are, the roots will grow towards the water rather than growing down towards gravity. What we're going to look at next then is something called auxin and how it plays a part in all three of these different tropisms. Okay, auxin then. Auxins are a group of plant hormones that control growth in the roots and the shoots of plants. So remember, we're talking about just the newest bits of growth at the end of the shoots and the newest growth in parts of the roots as well. Now, auxins can seem quite daunting when you first look at them, especially if you see some of the diagrams in books. But let's break it down. So how auxins work are you have a plant growing in a pot like the one I'm drawing at the moment, and you have whatever stimulus is it is. We're going to be looking at light first, so phototropism. I find it personally easiest to get my head around because you've observed, hopefully, some plants growing towards light in your lifetimes. So what will happen is the light is the stimulus. When that hits the plant, that will cause this auxin hormone to start to be deposited on the opposite side of the plant to where the stimulus is. It's really important that you know it's on the other side. So say in my diagram, the plant is being hit on the left side with light, so the auxin is going to be deposited on the right side. The reason they do this is to affect how the plant grows. In my large picture below, the auxin is being deposited on the left side of the first little shoot. You've got to imagine it's the same sort of shoot from my bigger picture. What will happen is those cells will physically grow longer. Think of them being sort of stretched out. And because they're being stretched, this will cause the whole plant to bend as one side grows faster in a way than the other. That makes it bend towards the light. So now we've got our idea of generally how auxins work, we can try and apply this to the 3 tropisms. Okay, let's break down these 3 tropisms then. Our first tropism is phototropism. Remembering phototropism is to do with plant shoots growing towards the light. We've talked about it before, let's run through it again. So the first thing that's going to happen is that light is going to stimulate the plant to release auxin on the shaded side, the darker side. This is going to then cause those shoot cells to elongate, causing the plant to sort of have unequal growth, and it will bend towards the light. And this happens in stems. Our next one is gravitropism or geotropism. This time the stimulus is gravity, and this is going to stimulate the roots to produce auxin on the opposite side to where gravity is pulling. This will then cause the root cells to elongate on the opposite side to gravity, so the root then turns and grows down towards gravity. Our last one is hydrotropism. In this situation, water is the stimulus and it's affecting the roots again. So if there's water detected, the auxin is going to be deposited on the opposite side to where the water is. So those cells are going to elongate and grow, which will cause the root to start to bend towards the water. In terms of what you need to know for an exam, you do need to know the differences between the 3 types of tropism, which ones are positive and negative for each type of tropism, and be able to mainly explain the effect of this auxin on the growth of those cells. When we see each other next time, we're going to have a look a little bit deeper into how plant hormones can be used in things like agriculture. But for now, just make sure you get your head around what tropisms are and how auxin works. Thanks so much for sticking around to the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed it and found it a bit interesting, even though it's, plants could be seen as being a bit boring. I always quite like them at school. As I said, join next time for when we're going to look at how plant hormones are used. If you haven't done it already, subscribe and give me a like. It all does help me try and grow this channel steadily, and I'll see you all very soon.